Hey everybody, my name is Kirsten St. John. I'm the founder and the songwriter and the main producer of Zoetic, and this is our latest single that just came out. It's called Worth It, and I thought I would do a deep dive into it for you guys. So here we go. We are in Logic. That's where I produced the entire song. As you can see, all of my tracks are color-coded. My drums are a dark blue, my basses are purple, my pianos are red, my heavier synths and organs and electric keyboards are orange, my lighter bells are green, my pads are yellow, and all of the vocals are light blue, which is my vocalist Emma's favorite color. And so they're color-coded like that. It just makes it easy for me to see everything. And so we'll get started. We'll start in the intro here. So the intro, we have two bells that are layered on top of each other. I'll play it real quick. You can kind of hear that echo behind. So one of the bells is just, the main bell is just gentle sine bells. It's the main one that's used, but there's no echo on it. So here's just that. You hear how there's a little bit of reverb, but like basically no echo. And then you add in Harlequin, and Harlequin is a softer bell, but it has the same type of tone, and it has a little bit of an echo off of it. And there you go. There's the echo. We're going to come into the verse here.
Stay safe, just stay close. Suppress the voice telling you to grow.
All right, so what's going on in this verse? We've got both bells. The vocals come in, obviously. We have Blue Ridge Hat, which is this hi-hat that's kind of going on. You hear those little 30 seconds? Like that. And that's the only percussion that's happening. And then we have this really cool reverse piano and piano. So this is a trick I learned from AJR. They love to reverse elements in their songs, and they reversed a piano in their song Weak. And I thought it would be really cool if we tried something similar in our song. So this is a combination of reverse piano and normal piano hits. So you'll hear the reverse piano here. And then at the end, that's the hit. Normal piano hit. So reverse, normal, like that. And you hear that the reverse piano kind of sounds like a swell. It's like a really cool sound. It's like a, which is not a sound pianos normally make. Piano's a percussion instrument, so they don't normally swell like that. And so to get a piano to swell is actually super cool. So I'm going to show you guys really quickly how I did that. I'll duplicate this track here, this Steinway Piano 2, and I'll show you how I reversed it. So we're going to copy, paste. We'll solo this so it's just that. Maybe we can expand out here so we can see it easy. Oh, I don't need all the automation. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay, great. Now I'm going to right click on that track. I'm going to bounce it in place. Just click OK. The settings are good. It's bouncing the regions. And then now we have, so what I did there is I turned a MIDI file into audio. And now that same thing, it's the same thing. It's not reversed yet, but it's just, these are just the hits, right? So normal piano hits. But now instead of MIDI, it's audio, and that allows us to reverse it. So we're going to go into the inspector window here. Inspector window, you press I, and then you click reverse on the track, and look, it magically reversed. So you hear that now it sounds reversed, which is super, super cool. So Logic makes it very easy to reverse elements, and this song is full of reversed instruments. I mean, we'll go over more of them as time goes on. But yeah, we start with a reversed piano. And so what do we have in the verse? We have lead vocals. As I said, they're way up here at the top. They're the blue thing. We've got both bells. We have reverse piano and normal piano, and we have that hi-hat. And that's pretty much all that's in.
Stay safe,
but it's enough, right?
Just stay close. Suppress the voice telling you to grow. A normal life, security, tempting all the weakest parts of me. I can't escape this call, so many times I've tried.
Okay, so now, as you've noticed, we're in the first pre-chorus and we've added things. What have we added? We've added this clean organ that's just very much in the background. The bells are still going. We have this thing called moving fuzz, which just, it's basically, I haven't brought in the actual bass guitar yet. It's kind of subbing as a bass guitar. And it's these lower notes that are going along with the chords. And it sounds like this. It's pretty quiet. With just a little bit of volume swelling there, and that's that moving fuzz. And we have the organ that we've added in, this clean organ sound, and both of those with the piano elements sound like this. Right? And going into it from the verse is just reverse piano. So this is the verse, and now we're going to come into the pre-chorus. Pre-chorus here. Chord progression changes. Some tension and release in the chords there. And there's tension and release in the reversed elements, right? That's what we're seeing. And we also have our first kick. We only have one of our three kicks. I have three kicks in this song, and the other two will come in and double in the chorus. So a trick that I've learned, mainly from Charlie Puth, is to layer, if you want a certain sound, I've also learned this from AJR, if you want a certain sound, you need to layer multiple things on top of each other. So if you want a certain kick sound, sometimes you need more than one kick. But this is just the first kick. It's called Deep Blue, and it's coming in the pre-chorus. It's kind of like an electronic sounding kick. Kind of like, almost like an EDM type thing, right? Right? And that's going on, and that's everything that's in the pre-chorus. So here's the pre-chorus. First pre-chorus.
I can't escape this call, so many times I've tried. A life of comfort, and you're telling me I have to say goodbye. I needed saving, and you were the sacrifice. You never said this would be easy. You are the reason.
I don't know if you heard there, but at the end, the bass finally comes in. Now we finally have bass guitar in. I wanted to wait as long as possible to bring the bass in. I thought that would be a cool arranging technique, not to just have bass throughout the entire thing. And so I waited until basically almost the first chorus to bring the bass in. Now we're in the first chorus. Chord progression changes. What are we adding? We are adding Airways pad. This nice kind of high airy pad. And it sounds like it's being panned like kind of all over the place, like the panning is switching. I didn't do that. That's just how the patch came. So that's Airways there. We've got the bass in. We've got all of our percussion in now. We've got hat, rim, this clap. So let's solo this clap and hear it, because this clap is really cool. This clap is not reversed, but it sounds like it is. The sound just kind of came like this. I love it, and it fits so well with everything else. So this is the clap. You hear that? It sounds like it's reversed, but it's not. That's just like how the sound came. And so let's hear all of the percussion now, all the drums rather, in this chorus. So you can hear in the pre-chorus there's basically nothing. There's just this pre-chorus, this one kick and a hi-hat. And here's the chorus. The clap is on every few rims, right? So to summarize that, in the first chorus we have the the lead vocals. We have the Airways pad. We have the gentle sine bells. I'm not even sure if those are actually currently in. Nope, they're not. So the vocals, the pad, the organ, both reversed pianos, bass, and our drums. And even though this is more of like, anybody who's listened to our older stuff, like this is more poppy definitely than any of our previous work. There's not any less jazz that's being used. In fact, in some ways there's more. This is one of our more jazzy songs. And there's a lot of piano in this. Piano is still really predominant. And the piano part here really starts to open up and like do some cool things that are going along with these chords. Let me hear it. There's a piano part in the chorus. Like that. And without further ado, here is the chorus.
I won't look back at yesterday's leaving familiar, 'cause I know that you're worth it all.
It's one of my favorite parts. That is a little tiny little percussion fill that uses double bass. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm actually very much into prog metal and prog rock. And I love bringing that into more modern forms. And so that's my little double bass fill in there with very poppy percussion, but it works. And so that's that little ba-da-bum, ba-da-bum, those 30-second note basses there. And that goes into the second verse. So let's hear that again. That little.
Know that you're worth it all. What will you make?
Okay, so now we're in verse 2. Verse 2 is very similar to verse 1, obviously, but what are we adding? We are adding the bass. The bass is now really going. At this point, we have both reversed pianos as the bells are back in. Clean organ. We have reverse airways. So remember we were talking about this airways pad that we had in the chorus? Sorry, let me solo that. Airways pad in the chorus. Well, now we have reverse airways. Reverse airways is that pad, but reversed, just like we reversed the piano. So here's reverse airways. Hear that? It only happens occasionally. That was on the left. Now this one's going to be on the right. So they're pans hard left and hard right intentionally to be kind of a cool thing that fills in the gaps there because there's gaps between each line, and that's just kind of a little thing to fill that there. And that's the second verse. It's, again, very similar to the first verse, but we got that reverse airways. We've got the whole beat in now, and we have the Liverpool bass. So let's hear the second verse.
What will you make? Will this succeed? My confidence hides my unbelief.
Harmony vocals in there.
Don't have time. Who do you know? I make
One of my favorite bass parts. Bum bum ba-da-da. I wanted like a little staccato thing and then chromatic in.
don't have time.
Here we go. You'll hear
Who
it.
do you know? I make my plans just to let them go.
Second pre-chorus coming up.
Oh, I can't escape this call. So many times I've tried. A life of comfort.
So what's happening here? Okay, the vocals are going nuts. So this whole time, we basically have only had lead vocals. We had a little bit of harmonies on that second verse. Well, now, oh my goodness. Now we have the lead vocals. We have harmony. We have counter melodies that are coming in with like little phrases in between things. And we have a stacking of oohs in the harmonies here. I'm going to play all of these vocals for you on the pre-chorus. And here we go.
Oh, I can't escape this call. So many times I've tried. A life of comfort, and you're telling me it's time to say goodbye. You asked for everything. You asked for sacrifice.
And to clarify, I am not the vocalist of this band. My best friend Emma is the vocalist of this band, and so I can't sing like that. Although, fun fact, I am actually singing the bottom one. I'm actually singing the bottom harmony because it was a little low for her, and so that's my terrible voice at the bottom here. You'll hear it in 1 second. It's terrible. Oh, it's gross. Luckily, it's like way on the bottom of this whole stacking.
Oh, I can't escape this call. So many times I've tried.
And that's good. Okay. And then what else do we have? We have this really cool bell line that I love. Here we go. Delicate bells, soft synth bells. You'll hear it. Okay, well, that is going along with the chords. And it sounds cheesy by itself, but when you actually stick it with everything, and that's the thing that I've learned, is that you can get away with a lot in terms of the synths that you use and the choices that you make there if your drum production and your bass production is more modern. You can get away with a lot of that. So even though those things kind of sound cheesy and 80s on their own, in context of everything, they don't. It sounds modern. And the bass, like let's listen to the bass and the drums soloed, because the bass is really kind of going crazy here. And there are supposed to be these spaces between each line, but the spaces are getting smaller and smaller because the bass is kind of going through all those spaces with little fills here. And so the bass is really moving at this point, and that's the second pre-chorus.
Oh, I can't escape this call. So many times I've tried. A life of comfort, and you're telling me it's time to say goodbye. You asked for everything, you asked for sacrifice. I don't have much, but take my pieces.
Into the chorus, second chorus. So what else is happening here? We have octave vocal doublings here in the chorus, which is just a cool effect. We've got airways is going, and now we have this new thing called 80s Starlight that, again, is really cheesy. Obviously, it says 80s in the title, so you know it's going to be cheesy. But the thing is that it's this steady eighth note pulse, bump, 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 and it actually syncopates with the syncopated chord changes. And I felt like it really grounded this section. So here's that. It's going to sound cheesy by itself, but in context of everything, it sounds really good. Ah, yes, the 80s. And here's the syncopation. Like that. Hear that? It goes with the chords. And yeah, that's that second chorus. Oh, the other thing that's cool in that second chorus is another bell line. And you're like, how many cheesy bell lines do you need? And the answer is there's never enough, honestly. Here's the gentle sine bells in that chorus. So that's the line. And you might be thinking, wow, that's really, really chromatic. Well, the chords are chromatic in this section. And so, yep, there it is. Let's hear it. Second chorus. Okay, big change here. So I'm going to actually turn this down ever so slightly because the song's going to get a lot louder. Now we're coming into the bridge. And the bridge, what are we changing? Okay, well, first, we've been using this rim the whole time, and now we have a snare. So we've been using the rim, the Lindrum rim, and that continues, by the way. Right? That's been going, like, for a long time now. But now we have this heavier snare, right? So this is going to turn this from kind of like a chill little pop song into something else, where we now have a lot of heavier synths in with these snares. And the bass is going to, there's now two basses. There was just this Liverpool bass that was going on, and now we've got this bass called Dirty Planet. Right? So that's going on now, and that just makes the bass heavier. And And that's what's going on in this bridge. So that's the first couple lines of the bridge, and then we'll get into the funkier section soon.
I have for admiration every fear. I'll never be enough for them. All influence, you're worth it. All security, you're worth it. All worldly things, you're worth it. All my suffering, you're worth it. All the plans.
All right, so before we get too ahead of ourselves, the reason why everything is getting heavier here in this bridge is because we're prepping for this funky section where we have these kind of ethereal vocals. We'll get into those harmonies in a second, but first, let's hear again just the bass and the drums in this bridge section when it kind of turns funky. Here we go. Okay, and if you're hearing a lot of chromatic notes, that's because in the bridge we are switching between two keys. The whole song, most of the song, is in C minor. That's just the key that it's in. But this bridge section, it goes to E flat minor, modulates, but it doesn't really know if it wants to be an E flat minor. It's kind of being pulled between E flat minor and C minor over and over again, which is a technique I really love to use harmonically, where you don't really know what key you're in. You don't feel really grounded in a key, especially in a bridge, because a bridge is a transitory section anyways. And so it's okay to be kind of between keys in a bridge like that. And so that's why the bass line is so chromatic, and that's why the chords seem kind of weird, because at the end, I'll show you where it happens. So we're in E flat minor, pretty solid. Okay, E flat minor. This is E flat minor. And that at the end there, that was C minor. We were back in C minor. That chord progression is actually taken from Lewis Cole, one of my favorite musicians. He's the founder of Nowhere, of his song Thinking. It's actually taken out of that. This song doesn't sound like that song at all, but that chord progression comes from there. Got a steal, right? A little bit. That's the only thing I took from it. And then here are the harmonies in that section. It's a 3-part harmony that it's again kind of reverby, kind of in the back, and it's supposed to be this ethereal blanket that's kind of over, the harder bass and drums. So here,
Influence, you're worth it. All security, you're worth
just
it.
repeating phrases. Things, you're worth it all.
All my suffering, you're worth it. All the plans I make, you're worth it.
Okay, so it's just repeating that phrase. And that's what's going on there. And then the synths are just kind of grounding that. And then we go into this, after we're done with that section, we go into a section that's probably the high point of the song, where my vocalist, Emma, she does this like kind of walk up to a high F. It's like an F5, which is pretty dang high for like a pop song. It's not an Ariana Grande song. And you'll hear that here. So she walks up to an F5, and all of the instruments are getting louder, and the point of this is to modulate back into C minor solidly, and we're going to be back in C minor the rest of the song, and it gets us ready for the piano break. So here's that build up. So what is that? So that's the piano break there. That was a chance for me to have a little fun. This whole time, I haven't been going super easy on the jazz chords. I've been throwing quite a few of them in, but I didn't really have a chance to really go crazy with the chord progression until that piano break, and then I was able to have a lot more fun with it. So let's actually look at the automation here and see. Okay, if you look here at Steinway Piano 2 Record Collection Grand, what you see is that Record Collection Grand, which is this really old sounding piano, is loud at the beginning. And Steinway Piano is softer. And then Steinway Piano gets louder, and Record Collection Grand gets softer. So it's this switching of pianos. So you have this really old piano sound switching into a modern piano sound. And that's kind of like a instruments turning into other instruments technique. I made a little short video about that for both our Instagram and our TikTok. You can follow us there at Zoetic_music if you want short little things that kind of show these production tricks. So see, it sounds really old. And then you're gonna hear a switch. But you can hear how it switched from the old piano into the newer piano. And that's what's happening. The other thing that's happening that's really fun is that if you look at the pan, one of them is panned really far right, one of them is panned really far left, and they both come into the center. So it's just a super cool technique that I learned again from some of my favorite producers and favorite songwriters. So what do we have here? I'll play this little section here after the piano. Well, it's still technically in the piano break, but before the outro.
You are the reason.
Okay, so what is happening there? So that is a trick called a global low pass EQ filter. So basically that's what's making it everything. Global means all of the tracks. So all of the tracks sound muffled, and then they're getting clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer. Well, how did I do that? So I'm going to show you guys here. If we look at one of the harmonies that this is happening with. So as you can see, this is the EQ here in this section. And, you know, there's this big, like, kind of purplish grayish thing, and that's the filter. And what that means is that it's only letting in the frequencies that are on the other side of this filter here. So it's letting in very few frequencies here, and it stops letting frequencies in at like 450 hertz, which is very low. And what you're going to see is that as time goes on through that section, this filter is going to get smaller and smaller. So let's watch that. Watch it get smaller. See? Now we're letting in more. Okay, so let's hear that just on that vocal.
You're worth it all, security, you're worth it all, worldly things, you're worth it all, my suffering.
See how that works? It's such a cool trick, and it's a little bit complicated to explain how I did that, but I might make like a short little video about just that specific thing for our Instagram and TikTok. So be on the lookout for that. But that's what's happening. So global low pass filter. And then we have basically dead silence. But before that, we have this white noise swell, which again is kind of like a trap EDM thing. This is not a trap or EDM song. We don't do that type of music at all, but this is just a technique that that I've heard a lot in music like that. So here's the white noise swell. It's going to swell up, and there's going to be dead silence. Isn't that cool? So it's building into something and then just dead silence. So that's what's going to happen with all of them. There's going to be dead silence, and then the vocals are going to come in, and then everything is in this outro, as you can see. I'll try to, yeah. Look at how many tracks are in this outro. There's barely anything that's not in. So yeah, everything's going to just smack in the outro. So here we go.
You are the reason. You are the reason. You are the reason. You are the reason.
Okay, so before we get too far into this, as I said, everything is in for the most part. And what I love about this outro, so this outro combines other elements of the song. So the chord progression is the chord progression of the pre-chorus. So it's the pre-chorus chord progression, okay? It's the bridge instrumentation and production. So it's the heavy instrumentation and production of the bridge. it's the chord progression of the pre-chorus, and it's the lyrics of the chorus, right? Because the lyrics are "You are the reason," and that's the lyrics of the chorus. And so with the lyrics of the chorus, the chord progression of the pre-chorus, and the production of the bridge all coming together in the outro. So the outro was really, really intentional. Just stop real quick. That obviously I sound terrible singing it, but that is actually that is actually a little nod to one of our other songs called "The Other Way." It's a previous song. That motive is in that song, and it's a little Easter egg to put in there for people who have listened to our other songs. But yeah, it just is. It's a little bit out of the key, but it transitions us into the rest of that outro. The rest of that outro is going to be the 3-part harmony coming back this time. Okay, in the new key now. Here we go. 3-part. And here we have another bell part. Guys, I wasn't done with the bells. Okay? This is an outro bell part that I absolutely love. It's very reminiscent of Charlie Puth's Boy. If you can't tell, I'm very inspired by Charlie Puth, even though he is a pop artist and I don't often listen to a ton of pop. He is one of my favorites. His musicality and his production ability is just off the charts, and I've just learned so much from him. And so I took this from him. It's kind of the ending. It's not the same notes or anything, but it's just the same style of kind of high bells that are at